Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Nano Chelik, the European server, playing in their Object 260. So the Object 260, a tier 10 Soviet heavy tank that was the final reward of the first set of personal missions that went into the game all of those years ago. I think it's pretty much been about 8 or 9 years since this tank went into the game, unless I'm exaggerating, and since it went in, it hasn't been improved pretty much at all. I think it might have had a slight hit point increase, maybe a little bit of damage per minute here and there, but it still remains as pretty much how it went in. It's a fast, heavy tank, probably one of the fastest in the game, especially with the field mods and when you use a turbo on it. And that's really what the speciality is of the tank. However, Nano Chelik is going to show you that the 260 is not just good for rushing around and being a bit of an idiot on the battlefield, but it's also very good for just bludgeoning your way through your opponent on close quarters maps like Himmelsdorf. Now, Nano Chelik is using a durability device on this tank, but unfortunately, because they didn't have a second set of equipment enabled, I wasn't able to see what the other two pieces were. But it's most likely going to be a gun rammer combined with either vertical stabilizers or vents, or maybe even an aiming device on this. Personally, for me, I'd like to use the vents on the 260 to be able to increase my view range, especially on those open maps. But on a situation like this, possibly vert stabs so you can be able to snap in those shots around the corner might be the way to go. So the Object 260, unfortunately, for all you free-to-play players out there, Nano Chelik is taking a good old slug of high-explosive anti-tank rounds. But who wouldn't on a vehicle like this with 340mm of penetration? And it looks like Nano Chelik has 2 marks of excellence on the 260, which is a feat in itself. So maybe they are tryharding to be able to try and get their third. Talk about tryharding, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Without spoiling it, yesterday I had quite a session on the stream. Managed to get my 3rd mark on the E50M and the Type 5 Heavy in a single sitting. So obviously I'm hoping that maybe Nano Chelik is going to be able to get closer towards their goal here as well in their replay. So, a little bit of a rough shell there, whizzing just over the turret of the Char Future 4. And in the first 2.5 minutes of this game, Nano Chelik is sitting at a very casual 4,300 damage, with a quick dab of the 5 key to be able to repair their gun and get back to maximum accuracy to farm up this brand new tier 9, or is that the tier 8? That's the tier 8 Chinese heavy tank. Man, that BZ-166, that was a painful tank to be able to play through. But it does get better at tier 9, and then it kind of just gets weird at tier 10. I don't really have enough of the new rocket gameplay, and I think that's because really the new rocket tanks, apart from when you are using the rockets, are not too special at all. Just feel a little bit cumbersome, a little bit irrelevant inside the game, and I think there are better tanks that you could be able to invest your time in getting. Talk about better tanks. Nano Chelik showing that there aren't very many better tanks than a 260 when you're an excellent player like Nano Chelik is. Now up to 6,000 damage in the first 3.5 minutes of this battle. Wow, Nano is absolutely farming. And when you've got a decent base damage per minute at 2,400, sure, it's not great, but it's definitely not terrible on this tank. As long as your opponents line up and you stack it up with premium consumable and probably with a decent gun rammer on this tank, yeah, you can clap. 7,400. What I'm really impressed with this replay is that Nano Chelik just shows excellent marksmanship, excellent mouse control. Definitely got things wired in and tuned in for their setup here, and it is paying dividends for them. Chasing down a Borask, not using an APCR round, puts an HE round into the back there for 543, and while the Borask managed to penetrate the 260 a couple of times there, just excellent little things like that is what those superior players are doing to be able to gain those advantages. And finishing off the Borask means that there's no sneaky French tank going around, which allows a little bit of a respite for Nano Chelik to now start a 1 versus 6. This is bonkers stuff right here. Nano Chelik with just over 1,000 hit points, now going after a 1-2-1B, and a lovely fire there, and a ricochet with a nice little micro movement to the right, making the 1-2-1B miss the lower plate and go through the side there, or not through the side, ricochet off the side of the 260, and Nano Chelik is just on fire right now. predicting where the tier 10 Chinese rocket heavy tank will be, but unable to figure out where the TNH 105-1000 was there. Nanochelik repairs their fuel tanks, one of the most important things to do if you're not using a fire extinguisher on every single tank inside the game. And now pounding towards the WZ-111-14, they are over 10,000 damage in just over 5 minutes of World of Tanks action. Now Nanochelik putting in their second round after ramming to be able to bring the 111-14 down to below a one-shot, although it could have been a low roll in that scenario, but luckily it wasn't. And when you're in these 1 versus 6 scenarios, you've just got to be brutal, you've got to be calculated, and you've got to be fast. You have to relentlessly go after the enemy tanks one by one, or else they're going to be able to gang up on you. And while you might be able to handle a 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1 fight, one after another, like you're in some kind of beat-em-up game, you're not going to be handling all of them at the same time, unless they're on very low health. And Nanochelik has changed a hit point disadvantage of about 1,000 versus 5,000 hit points now to 600 versus 3,000. Although, still steep stuff here, with the CC Mark II on the enemy team being near full hit points and 2 auto-loading tier 8 heavies to be able to back them up. Although 2 of those 3 tanks are inside the cap circle. 3 tanks were before the TNH 105-1000 is vanquished with a clutch shot to the side of the tank. And now Nanochelik knows exactly where the last 2 vehicles are, as they're going to be competing for the one that everybody wants, the Kolobanov's medal. Okay, no tank towards the right, so Nanochelik has just got to deal with the CC Mark II here with 13 seconds left to interrupt. The CC Mark II bounces, and with its fairly long intraclip reload on the Italian auto-reloading tank destroyers, Nanochelik now manages to go hull down, put one into the Emil, and safe from the Mark II. Ricocheting gold rounds here from the Emil, turning their turrets slightly to the side, I guess to be able to focus on the CC Mark II. And now with only 1 high-explosive anti-tank round left, Nanochelik is down to 5 APCR rounds, which is going to have to penetrate at least 2 or 3 on the CC Mark II. Luckily, it was a high roll for 490, that's plus 12% damage on the 440 average. That should allow Nanochelik to be able to finish off the CC Mark II with a follow-up shell. And boys and girls, over 13,000 damage and just an Emil to deal with. Now, will Nanochelik do the unthinkable and maybe fire off 2 remaining shells to try and fudge out a Faden's medal here? 7.5 minutes into this game, over 13,000 damage, 8 vehicles vanquished, and a fuel tank damage again from the Emil. Nanochelik doesn't mess around trying to cheese out a Faden's. They were calm, they were calculated, they were ruthless in this game. This was pretty much the perfect game of World of Tanks from clearly an exceptional player in a nice matchup playing with a very strong tank. And what more is there really to say? Nanochelik literally was providing a taxi service to deliver the enemy team one by one into the garage in literally just one of the most ruthless games of World of Tanks I have ever seen. This is what perfection looks like inside the game. And I'm not talking specifically about the tank, but just what you should try and achieve as a player. Not missing any of the shots, focusing your enemies down one by one, using your mobility and your awareness of the situation to hunt your opponents. And if you do all of those things enough, you too will be a god of a battlefield like Nanochelik and achieve absolutely unthinkable results. This was an ace tank of a 1,733 base experience. The one that everybody wants, the Kolobanov's medal for standing alone against at least 5, in this case 6. A DeLangle's medal, a very unusual one, for destroying 4 opponents while they are inside the cap circle. A Radley Walters medal for the 9 kills here. A Defender medal for 100 base defense points, as you would expect if you get the DeLangle's, and a high caliber. This is really the high caliber of high calibers, with 13,644 damage dealt and a steel wall to cap it all off, blocking enough damage to destroy the vehicle, even with a durability device, a couple of times over. So, Nanochelik, congratulations to you on what is the game of the year so far. And when amazingly skilled players such as yourself are pumping out big games like this, boy, it gives me some things to look forward to in 2023. So, NanoChelik, congratulations once again, and thank you so much for uploading your replay onto the WOT Replays website. I thoroughly enjoyed this ruffle stomp on Himmelsdorf, and I hope all of you out there did as well. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know what is your go-to tank of choice for when you absolutely just want to tear your way through the enemy team. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.